right, everyone. Hello. Happy New Year. Here we are in 2022, which is hard to believe. It seems like we were just in 2019. It's kind of been a crazy couple of years. We're heading into doing these videos for 2 years now. I think in April it will be the 2-year mark that we've been doing these, and you guys have been plugging along with us. Every week we manage to come up with something, and some of you may have seen my plea go out yesterday. What do I do? We literally have no fabric this week. We got in a couple of blender reorders, which we usually don't show you guys because you expect us to have those in, but other than that we have no new fabric, which is kind of an odd thing. It doesn't happen very often. So I put out the plea, we have no fabric, what do you want us to do? So today is demo day, so we've got quite a few things to demo for you guys. I hope that you'll enjoy it. I hope it makes sense to you. We have plenty of everything that we're showing in stock, so if you decide that you love what we're doing, we've got them in stock, and if we don't, then we'll be getting them because we'll be placing an order tonight. So first of all, I want to tell you guys Happy New Year. Thanks for joining us. But we have some open sew days this month. So we happen to have some days where there's nobody out there, and any day that there's no one out in the classroom, it pretty much is an open sew day. You can come if you need to pin a quilt, or you need to use a design wall, or you just want to sew, out there. You're more than welcome to come in. So we've actually dedicated these 3 days, so it's the next 3 Wednesdays of this month, the 12th, the 19th, and the 26th as open sew days. So you can come in, you by yourself. Hopefully there'll be some other people. If you want to get a group of you to come in, that's fine too, but it's from 10 to 4, and it's $12 per person for each day. You can sign up right online. The open sew days are all on there. You can sign up for 1, 2, or all 3. You can call the shop to sign up. But here's all of the information for that. So you can go to our website, oldtownquiltshoporchid.com, or you can give us a call down here. If you want to email us and let us know, that's fine, but either way, one of those two will work. Okay, so we have quite a bit to show you, so we are going to go ahead and get started, and thank you to those who gave us suggestions. I think we pretty much did almost all of them. There's a few that we didn't do, but maybe we can fit those in too. So we're gonna get going here. All right, so my trusty assistant, or I should say my trusty sidekick, because we're actually gonna start with the Sidekick Ruler. We're gonna make this one quick though, because really, if you want to really learn how to use this ruler, you need to go to, you probably can't see because this is the Sidekick Ruler, jbirdquilts.com. And she has fabulous videos on how to use all of her rulers. So there's the Sidekick, the Super Sidekick, and the Hex and More. And her videos are way, way better than ours. So we're just going to do a quick overview on the things that you can do with this ruler. Okay, so let's go ahead and come to the cutting table here. All right, so usually with her pattern, she has you open the strip out to a single layer, because when you're cutting, you can't always, sometimes you need opposites and sometimes you need them all to be going the same way in the same direction. So I've unfolded mine. So the first thing we're going to do is cut a half triangle. And I've already evened up my edge here. I'm going to have to scooch over. You might be better off on that side. Or I'll let you come over. We have to do a little switcheroo here so we're on the proper side. Okay, so I don't know if you can see on the ruler how clear it is, but my strip is 4.5 inches, so I'm using the whole ruler right here at the top, and there's a straight line here, and then it's going to go over and up, and that's going to be a half triangle. So if you're doing something with setting triangles and you need just a little half guy, whoops, I'm lazy at the beginning, this is the shape that you get. So then to do the next one, you flip it over this way. So you're kind of doing this, and then you're going to flip it over and you can cut another one. Or since I've got this angle, I can cut a 60-degree triangle. So that's the next shape on here is the triangle, so I've lined up, oh, but I'm upside down, which is okay. So I can cut a triangle. Oops, I moved a little bit. Yeah. Maybe we need a new blade. Okay, and you can also cut, I'm going to cut the other way because I want, what do I want? I wanted to do a diamond. I need it to go, I guess it can go this way. Like I said, jaybirds are much, much better because I think my angle is wrong. There we go. So this ruler is meant to be flipped and turned and rotated and moved all around to get, you know, normally you're cutting the same angle every time. I'm trying to show you all the different shapes that it does. So I'm going to cut a diamond shape, and actually normally you're cutting this way, but this will work as well. And so there's my diamond shape. So it cuts the diamond, it cuts the triangle, and then it cuts the half triangle, and they can go both, you know, both ways. So that's the Sidekick, but like I said, go to jaybirdquilts.com to get much, much better, much more professional videos. If we were too pro, you guys wouldn't know what to do with us. Okay, so that's the Sidekick. And there's also the Super Sidekick, which is a larger version of this, but it cuts the same shapes, just bigger. This one goes to 4.5, and I think the Super Sidekick goes to 8.5. So if you've got larger pieces that you're cutting, that's what that's for. Okay, so the next thing that people were asking for was the 1-stitch hanging sleeve. So I have some completed. I'll show you what it is, and then we're going to show you how to make it. So you know how we don't like hand sewing. Hand for us is a 4-letter word. We don't like doing it at all. So if we can find some little trick or some little hack or something to not, we will do it. So we found at, what's the website? So Very Easy, and it's SEW, soveryeasy.com. This little hack to do 1 stitch on a little piece, or depending on how many pieces you do, it could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but really you're not doing the entire length of the hanging sleeve. So I'm going to show you completed ones, and I'm going to show you how to make it. So this quilt here has completed ones, so you can see we've stitched it into the binding, and here's our 1 little stitch right at the bottom. And so there's one here, and there's one here, and there's one here, and they go all the way across, you know, to the end of the quilt. So the bigger the quilt, the more you need. If it's a small wall hanging, you might only need 2 or 3, hence the 1, 2, 3 stitch, whatever. But the point is, you're not sewing all the way across. You're just doing, you know, 1 little stitch or 2 little stitches in there. And with this, you get options. So you can stick if you've got a rod or a pole or whatever, you know, all the way underneath here, or on the ends, and I'll show you how to achieve this. If you've got kind of a smaller one, you know, especially a small wall hanging, you can create a little pocket here. So you've got an open end, and then there's a fold on this side, and you guys will understand when I show it to you. So you could have the little pocket, you know, on the ends of it, so that it just goes right into the, you know, if you've got a smaller, it's slightly smaller than your quilt is, then it can go there. If you've got a rod that's a little bit bigger than your quilt, like a curtain rod or something, then it can go all the way through. So that's one that's been stitched into the binding, and again, you're going to notice that our binding is done the opposite way of what most people do. We top stitch it on the front because, once again, hand is a 4-letter word. But regardless of how you do your binding, you can still put these on with your binding, because this can be basted down before you hand stitch your binding, if that's what you choose to do. But if you're doing it this way, it's because you don't like to do hand stuff. So this one was done after the binding was already put on. And so the raw edges have been stitched over the raw edges of, this is a made hanging sleeve, so you've got raw edges up here. So just a zigzag stitch or a blanket stitch right over the edge of that to clean up those edges. And then it's just been stitched right across, kind of stitched almost in the ditch of the binding, right across here to tack it on. And yes, you will get another line, you know, weave.
Well, I did it from the front.
Oh, well, she did it from the front just to go over the existing line. If your binding is done the opposite way, where you stitched it onto the front and then turned it over to the back, then you, or you know, do it, or you can do it with invisible thread, so that none of your stitching is going to show at all. So same thing, even if you've already got a quilt that's already done, you can still add it at the end, and you know, nobody sees the back. Obviously, if you're putting this in a show, you're not going to want to do this. You know, you got to follow the rules with, you know, sleeves and everything, and putting it on. But if it's just something for your home and you just need to have a hanging sleeve because you realized, oh, I forgot to put it on when I put my binding on, or suddenly you decided you want to hang something, you can still add it. Okay, so to make it. Now, in her video, she tells you to use, you know, she shows it with like a 10-inch square, and I think she used a 10-inch square because that's what she had left, or that's the size of her ruler, or whatever. But really, you're going to base the size of the square that you use kind of on the size of your piece that you're doing. You know, this is a smaller quilt, this one here, and really probably didn't even need to be this big. The square could have been a little smaller. I don't know what size square this was. Probably more like 8. But the bigger the quilt, probably the bigger the square you're going to want, because you need to cover a little bit more, you know, acreage on the back of your quilt. So I have here a 9-inch square, so I'm going to show you how to make it with a 9-inch square. Super, super simple. All right, so you're going to take your 9-inch square, and you're going to fold it into a triangle, so corner to corner, and you'll be pressing this. And then you're going to take a long corner and meet it up with the other long corner, and voila, there you have it. So that gives you the raw edges up here, and that's going to go on your, you know, on your quilt. And I'm actually going to show you how to put this onto the back of your quilt. And then you've got your little, that results in the little pocket here, and then the fold here. So when it's on your quilt, you can choose to go into the pocket and end at the fold, or go all the way underneath. Okay, and then to stitch it, you're going to take your needle and thread, and this truly is the only time we really ever do hand sewing. So you're just going to take your needle and thread, and you're going to sew that little, you know, you're just going to take it, poke it in, go up and down and up and down, like 2 times. You really don't need that many stitches. And she says 1 stitch, but really I would do like 2 or 3. So I learned something today, and I'm going to show you guys. Quilter's knot. I'd actually learned it before, but for some reason it never worked out. So we're going to hope it works out for me today. So you're going to take your needle and thread, already threaded. You're going to take the end of your thread, the very end here, pinch it between your fingers, and you're just kind of put it on one side of your needle and pinch it there. You want to be fairly close to the end. Wrap it around your needle 3 or 4 times. And then you're just going to slide it on down. Probably should have gotten closer to the end. It didn't work. Why does it never work for me?
Because you're wrapping this. You need to wrap the big part.
Wrap? What do you mean wrap the big part? I'm wrapping the end.
Right. Wrap this.
See, this is why it never works. We're live here, people. Okay, pinch the end and wrap this.
Yes.
Ah, there we go.
Okay.
All right. Now, let's see if it works. And voila, there is a little knot there. I can see it. I don't know if you can see it, but there is a knot there.
Yeah.
I can feel it. So, there you have it. Quilter's knot.
She learned it live.
Learned it live. We're live here, folks. Okay, so we're going to revisit that hanging sleeve in a little bit. So the next thing that we are going to do is the folded corner clipper. This is the folded corner clipper. Now we have, what?
Our favorite tool.
Yes, this is one of our favorite tools, and we have demoed this multiple times. We also have a video of this, a slightly more professional video of this on our website. If you go on the very top tab, it says resources on the far right side, and you click on that, and there's just 2 videos on there right now, the block lock ruler and the folded corner clipper. So if you want to know all about the folded corner clipper, you can watch that video, but we're just going to do a quick version today. Oh, and there's a big one too. So that one does up to 5 inches. This one does up to 10 inches. So this is the big guy if you're doing borders. And you'll see in a minute why these are awesome. And our favorite tool. And yes, this is one of the ones that Mother said, you're going to love it. And I said, ha, 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 whatever, lazy. No. Okay. So you know how when you're putting your binding strips, when you're making your binding and you got to put them on top of each other and you got to, draw the little line and then you got to sew them, then you got to cut them and then you got to open them. This eliminates about half of that. So this makes it much, much easier. And it's accurate too. Although in our video, I don't know that it was. However, it's going to be today. Okay, so you can use strips of any size. It doesn't make any difference. For this ruler, it can go up to 5 inches. So if you have 5-inch borders, you can use this ruler. I'm doing this, I think these are 2.5 inches. So like if you're putting your binding strips together, this is great. So you're going to take your strips and you're going to put them right sides up, both of them right sides up. This is important. If you don't do this, you're going to have them going in opposite ways and it won't work and you'll be unhappy. So right sides up, both strips. And you're going to take your little ruler and you're going to line it up. So these are 2.5 inches. Let me get it off the line there. So you can see the ruler has the markings here. So you've got the little dash lines are the 2 1/4, because then this next one is 2.5. So we're at 2.5. And my top lines up with the top of my strip. And then this little edge, so you have to have a clean edge. This little guy ends up right there. What this is going to do is this is going to give us automatically our 1/4 inch for sewing. So we don't have to draw that little line. We don't have to cut it off later. So then I'm going to take this and I'm going to flip it over right onto there, match up my edges. If you're a pinner, you can pin. I don't pin, but we're going to, because we have to walk over to the machine. So I'm going to show you how it sews up and then presses together. And this is so much easier. And once you've done this enough times and then you have to go back to doing it the way you always did it, you're going to forget it and you're just not going to be a happy camper. So if you have a 1/4 inch foot like we do, you can just butt your edge right up to that little foot there. Sewing standing up is not fun. So I'm just going to go through and make sure that it stays all together. Sew it all the way. And voila. Pin out, and we'll go over here to the iron. And I'm going to press my seam open. And voila. Perfectly matched strips. So this works, like I said, with your binding strips. So if you've got your 2 inch, 2 1/4 inch, 2.5 inch strips, whatever, or border strips up to 5 inches. But that's not all it can do. I'm not going to show you everything. You can go watch our video on our website to see everything else that it does. But I can tell you that it does half square triangles. So if you've got squares that you need to put together and you're supposed to draw the line down the center and then sew on one side of the half square triangle, cut that off to make your half square triangle. This will help with that. This helps with flying geese and snowballing, which are kind of the same thing. The snowballing is taking a rectangle and then putting a square, I know this isn't very good, putting a square on there, sewing, and then flipping it up. And it tells you, when you purchase the ruler, whichever size you do, it comes with this little, this is not just the label. If you open that up inside, it tells you how to use the ruler. So it tells you all the different things that you can do with it and how to do it. But again, if you go to our website and you click on that resources, we've got the video for the folded corner clipper and we demonstrate all of the things that it can do. And we're super excited that now we have the big size, because the first time I had to do a 5.5 inch border, I was really upset because I couldn't use my folded corner clipper to put the strips together, and I had to remember how to do them, and I was very unhappy because I hadn't yet gotten the 10-inch one. Okay, so that's the folded corner clipper tool. And then now we're going to show you the binding tool. It's a very similar tool. So this is the Cut Rite Bind Up tool. Now people, oh, you can put your binding together without a tool. Well, we like gadgets and we don't like math. There's a lot of things about quilting that we don't like. But as most quilters know, if there's something that can make things easier for you, you're going to want it. So this is great because there's no math involved and all you have to know is left and right. That's it. Nothing else. And it doesn't matter what size your binding is, whether it's 2 inch, 2.5 inch, 2.25 inch, 3 inch, it doesn't make any difference. This will work no matter what. So I'm going to show you how to put these together. And then in that, I'm going to show you how to put that binding sleeve on. Or the little hanging dealy. Okay, so I have here a little thing that I've already put some binding on. So I'm at the point where I need to join my strips. So, people who don't use tools, they take whatever the size of the binding is and divide it by 15 and add 5 and I don't know what. Honestly, I don't know because I've never done it that way. I've only ever used a tool. So, I'm sure there's people cracking up out there. Okay, so I've, left myself a pretty good space. If you've got a small project, you want to leave as much space as you possibly can. I usually leave at least 12 inches. 10's kind of pushing it. But, give yourself a little bit of room, especially for like the first couple times that you do this, because sewing the little pieces together can get tricky if you're in a tight space. And leave yourself enough tail, 10 to 12 inches. So you've got a little bit of room to play with here. All right, so I've got my tails, they're all ready to go. I'm going to take them and I'm going to kind of almost kissing. Not quite there yet. COVID kiss, don't touch lips. 6 feet apart. No, not 6 feet. 6 millimeters maybe. So they're almost touching. There's just a little bit of space in between because you want it kind of snug. So then I'm just going to push down on them. You can also iron this little crease. For those who are more vision impaired, you can press them so that you have a true crease. I am going to use the friction pen so that you guys can see, but I don't always. Okay. Some people always do, some people never do. To each his own. So I'm going to show you with the friction pen. All right, so you're going to take one side. So this is my left side, and this is my right side. So you've got left and right. And it really doesn't make any difference which one is which, as long as one is one and one is the other. But we're going to do the true left and true right. Okay, so I have my left side, and I've got my little crease. I'm going to crease it down. And make sure you don't twist it, just go directly down and then just down. You don't want to, flip it or anything like that. And then you're going to open that up. And so you should be able to see you've got where you pressed it, you've got a little crease. You probably can't see it, but you've got a little crease there, and then of course you have your fold here. So on that little cross, I'm going to take my ruler so you can see this little cross mark there. So I'm going to take that little X, I'm going to match it right up with the X that I've drawn. And I'm going to cut. And I'm using the L, so the L is face up and the R is upside down, and that's what you want on this side. And then I'm just going to slide it up, and I'm going to cut the little dog ear. Okay, and I'm just going to leave that. So I'm just lining up the edges. I'm just matching up the edge of the ruler with the edge of my fabric to get the dog ear. So that's approximately 1/4 inch. Now I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to rotate it so the R is face up, and I'm going to come to the other. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to leave that guy there. I'm going to open this one up, make sure I'm still straight, I'm not twisted at all. I can see my little crease there. Open that up and mark my X again. So I've got my X, now I've got R up, and so I'm cutting the opposite way. I'm going to match that. Do as I say, not as I do. So I cut that one off, and then I'm just going to slide it back. And so again, I'm just matching up the edge here and the edge there and cutting off the dog ear. And that's gone. What that now gives me is two pieces, so if you want to check yourself, that are going to come together like that. And then we're going to just take them, so you're going to open them up and go whoop and match them right sides together. Now there's a couple ways to do this. Pinners can pin, non-pinners can not pin. If you want to, especially if you have like a flange binding or something that has kind of a definitive stripe or something on it, you're going to want to match your little X's up. I usually don't, and it comes out perfectly fine, but you can take a pin and stick it right in the center of that X, and then you're going to stick it in the center of this X. And again, the more room you have to work with, the better off you're going to be. Again, I never pin this, so this is fumbling along because I skipped this step. I know pinners are winners, but I usually win at this game too, so. And just even up the edges. Of course, you know, you can stick a pin here, stick a pin there, stick a pin there, whatever you want to do. And you're going to come over to your sewing machine. You're going to want to kind of flip the quilt over. Someone gave me a tip on this. So what she does, especially if you've got something big, you're flipping your whole quilt, you're kind of tipping it over because you need to have this going this way, and that's not the way that they normally come. Is she clips this little piece here with a Wonder Clip or something, just to kind of keep them together. But you can see that the more tail you have and the more room you have, the easier it is to get it over to your machine. All right, so I'm actually going to take that out because I just don't ever use them. And they always come out just fine, except for the fact that I'm standing to sew. Okay, so then you just same thing. It's very similar to the folded corner clipper. You've already got your 1/4 inch seam, and you're just going to go ahead and butt that up against your 1/4 inch. Sew it all the way down, and then again we're going to take it over to the iron and we're going to press that seam open. And then we can go ahead and attach to the quilt. So we've got it here. We're just going to open that up, and if you have a strip stick, that makes that much easier. And by using a friction pen, the heat will make those little X's go away. You're not going to see them anyways unless you've got really light fabric and you've used a dark thing. But now you can see it fits on there fabulously, and you can go ahead and then pin it or clip it to your quilt and then just finish going right along. And it comes out perfect every single time. You know, the only time it wouldn't is if the space in between the two pieces, you know, when you folded them was too far apart or too close together. You don't want a whole lot of space. You know, you want them to really butt up against each other because you want to be able to kind of snugly, you know, pull just a little. You don't want it because then it's going to, you know, wrinkle up your quilt. You don't want to do that. But you don't want them too far, you know, you don't want them too far apart, but you don't want them overlapping at all because then you're going to have a little bubble in your binding. Okay, so then if we were attached the hanging sleeve, which we should have already done, but in my case it's just going to go right underneath here. And I'll do this one. I should have basted this before we did this, but it doesn't make too much difference. And so then at this point I would just go right across, and then I would be folding this over, stitching it on, and then my sleeve is right on there, and then I would just take my little threaded needle and just boop it right on there. And that's it. So, any questions on anything? I guess I should have stopped it for every ruler.
Yeah, Yes,
Okay.
the
Folded corner clipper?
no, the first one.
The Sidekick?
The Sidekick is used in Nebula.
The Sidekick is used in Nebula. The Sidekick is also used in quite a few of her other that we have lots of patterns that use the Sidekick. If you search on our website Sidekick, there should be, if you scroll down, it should say suggested, and it should have every pattern that uses the Sidekick ruler, every pattern that we have that uses the Sidekick ruler. And same thing with the Super Sidekick. If you just click on that ruler so that it comes up, just scroll, and then underneath it says suggested products, and every pattern that we have that uses the Super Sidekick will be on there. Same with the Hex and More. I don't know that Nebula's on there as far as, using this, but Nebula uses both the Sidekick and the Super Sidekick. Okay, so we went through a lot today. So hopefully you guys loved everything. Like you said, we like gadgets that make life easier, and the folded corner clipper and the binding tool are at the tippy top of our top 3 tools. So like I said, we love those. If you need more information on how to use the folded corner clipper, you can purchase it, and there's info on there. You can do the little scanny thing, and I think Creative Grids has videos on it. But like I said, on our website, if you click on resources, we've got the slightly more professional and more in-depth video of everything that the folded corner clipper does. But we recommend that to so many people. And same with the binding tool. So the package, if you were to look it up, is Cut Rite Binding Tool. My bag is well used because I use this all the time. Usually, well, I don't use the friction pen anymore, but sometimes I'll stick a friction pen in there, so you always have exactly what you need to make that cut. And it comes with pretty clear instructions in there. Left, right, it shows you how to cut everything off, and pretty good instructions all the way through. But we are always happy to show you this. We have these rulers, out as demos. We're happy to demo these, in the shop. So if you've bought one and you say, I got it and now I can't remember how to use it, we will show you, because we show these all the time. One of the next videos that we'll do is the binding tool, and that will go up on our website as well. But the label. So a similar concept to the hanging sleeve is, again, the lazy person's way of doing a label. And I think we showed this once before, but if you abhor hand stitching like we do, this is another way to do a label. So you just get a triangle in, and it really could be, it doesn't have to just be this. You could have it come all the way across. But you just put it right into your binding, and then if you choose to do this, to stitch this down, then this is all that you're stitching, and you don't have to do an entire binding. And if you've already got the quilt made but now you need a label on it, you can do the same thing as what we did here, is just kind of stitch in the ditch along here, or stitch along the top. You can use invisible thread so that it doesn't show if you're worried about that. Rather than hand stitching an entire label on your quilt, because again, we hate hand sewing. It's just,
we don't do it.
We just don't do it. We're not one of the people that finds it relaxing to sit in front of the TV and do that. If you do say so yourself. Okay, so I hope that you guys have learned something, and what else? Hopefully we'll get fabric next week. I told my mom, I said, we'll probably have tons of fabric next week. This week we had nothing. Next week I hope that we have something to show you guys. If not, we'll be coming up with a new song and dance. Alrighty, so thank you guys for tuning in. As long as there's no further questions or comments, then we'll go ahead and sign off, and we will see you next week. Have a great night.